Dating apps. They promise endless possibilities, yet so many of us find ourselves endlessly frustrated. You swipe and swipe, hoping for a spark, only to be ghosted, breadcrumbed, or hit with yet another hey that leads nowhere. It's exhausting, it's discouraging, and sometimes absolutely infuriating. Why do people flake? Why do they lie in their profiles? Why does it feel like no one is actually looking for a real connection? It's easy to blame the apps or the algorithm or the people on the other end of the screen. The truth is, dating apps are just a tool. And like any tool, they reflect back to us what we put into them. And I wanted to represent men and women in this discussion because it's immature and unfair to be mad at a whole gender like it's all their fault, right? Ladies, I get firsthand how frustrating it is to be treated like an orifice, like your only value is sexual. And guys, I also get how irritating it is when people overfilter their photos and post old photos that are totally misleading about what they actually look like. But what surprised me most in my research for this episode is how many complaints we have in common. As I was talking to people about dating app pros and cons, I was shocked at how many men have the same irritations as women. Of course, I date men, so I'm well versed in what I deal with on the apps from day to day. And it was such a great perspective shift to hear from men and what they're dealing with and to see the same complaints on both sides. If we're scrolling with a mix of desperation and exhaustion, looking for someone to validate us or expecting every match to be the one, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. And when things don't go the way we want, we get mad at the apps, at the people, at the whole dating process. But what if we shifted our perspective? Instead of seeing dating apps as a battlefield where we're constantly losing, what if we used them as a tool to learn, enjoy people, practice boundaries, and examine our own patterns and reactions and expectations? That's what we're diving into today. How to stop letting dating apps make you feel defeated and start using them in a way that actually serves you. So, what if we shift from frustration about the apps or the other people to focusing on our own habits, our own expectations, and how we're showing up in this space? Hey, everybody, welcome to the Addiction Unlimited podcast, where you get to learn everything you want to know about addiction and recovery. I'm your host, Angela Pugh, co-founder of Kansas City Recovery, life coach, and recovering alcoholic. To learn more about me, you can listen to episode 0 on your podcast app or find us on the web at addictionunlimited.com. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the Addiction Unlimited podcast. I'm your coach, Angela Pugh. Thank you for hanging out with me today and spending some time with me. We are officially on our 4th and final episode in the series on dating and relationships. The whole month of February, I did all episodes on dating and relationships in honor of Valentine's Day. And this is our final one about dating apps. When I started researching this episode, I expected to hear the usual complaints about dating apps, right? The ghosting, the flakiness, the shallow conversations that never go anywhere. But what truly surprised me was how universal our frustrations are. As I talked to people about their experiences, I assumed women would have their list of grievances and men would have theirs. But what I found totally surprised me. So many of us are frustrated with the exact same issues. Disappointment, rejection, the feeling of being ignored, the frustration when people don't put any effort in. It's not just women feeling this way. Men are equally frustrated with inaccurate or just bad photos, mixed messages, and the endless cycle of swiping with little reward. And I date men, so I'm very familiar with what it's like on my side of the screen, but hearing men share their experiences was a real perspective shift. It made me realize how easy it is to assume that the other side has it easier, that they're the ones doing the ghosting or playing games, when in reality, they're just as fed up as we are. So today we're diving into the shared struggles of modern dating, the things we all complain about, why they happen, and most importantly, what we can do about it. Because maybe, just maybe, we're all a part of the same problem and the same solution. And let me take a breath real quick. If this is your first time listening to Addiction Unlimited, I am thrilled to welcome you to our family. We have one of the best communities out there. And I know I'm biased, but it's true. Our community is phenomenal and warm and cozy and welcoming and supportive. And we are super grateful to have you with us. So welcome. Okay, dating apps. I started this conversation because I've been on a few apps over the course of the last 8 months or so, and it's been a hell of a journey. I was talking to one of my girlfriends a few weeks ago, and she was going on a first date with a guy from an app, and they hadn't messaged much or had a phone call or a FaceTime or anything like that. She is someone who wants to get straight to the meeting up. And I said to her, I was like, I am not getting out of my elastic waistband, putting on clothes, doing hair and makeup, and going anywhere if I don't at least know we vibe. And she's cracking up. She was like, oh my God, what an interesting perspective. She said, I never would have thought about it like that. And that's the moment it clicked. I've studied people and human behavior pretty intensely since I was about 13 years old. Yes, I know I'm a weirdo, but I'm very aware that we're all different and we have a different way of looking at things. But when you're on dating apps, it can be extremely frustrating because it feels like you just never get anywhere. Why are so many people on dating apps to never go on dates? It's so confusing to me. And when she and I talked through this, our totally different perspectives, it clicked that we needed to do an episode about this and try to remove some of the frustration and irritation that is dating today. So, my girlfriend is an extrovert, right? She loves to go out and be out, meeting people, having conversations. So, of course, she doesn't want to spend a bunch of time messaging. She wants to get right to it in person and see if there's chemistry. I'm an introvert. I like to be at home, cozy, in comfy clothes, researching an episode or learning something new. I like to message for a bit first to get some sense that this dude I'm messaging with is not a serial killer. But what happens is we never take a beat to consider the other person's perspective. And she and I both had a little light bulb moment in that conversation. You don't know the person on the other side of the screen. You don't know who they are or how they're feeling. Now, I always try to give a little grace and space. I'll give someone a couple of days to message me back before I unmatch them. I'm totally cool if they have other things going on or they're just not into me or whatever else may be happening. Like we talked about in last week's episode, everyone is allowed to be wherever they are in their journey. I also try to be chill when messaging someone and they aren't giving me a lot to go on, right? If they're responding with only 2 or 3 word responses, not asking questions back to me, I try to be chill because some people have anxiety and aren't great at messaging. And I want you to feel comfortable. And listen, my best friend, Andy, he will talk your face off in real life. But when it comes to messaging, he's like a deer in the headlights. He freezes up, he has no idea what to say, and it blows my freaking mind. But it also allows me to learn that not everyone is good at all the things, right? So I went on a deep dive into the biggest frustrations with dating apps so we can explore the why, the what to do, and how to do it better. And what I want to start with, one major observation right off the bat is expectations. One of the biggest frustrations people have with dating apps isn't just the ghosting or the flakiness, it's unmet expectations. We get irritated when people don't communicate the way we want them to, when they don't behave the way we think they should, or when they don't present themselves the way we expect. But here's the thing. You can't expect people to be something they're not. And let me tell you what I mean by this. Women, we can't expect men to communicate like our girlfriends do, with long, thoughtful messages and emotional depth right from the jump. And men, You can't expect women to be immediately flirty, sexual, or ready to send you nudes 5 minutes after matching. That's just not typical female behavior. We also can't get mad at people for the things we're guilty of ourselves. If you're annoyed that someone hasn't filled out their profile, but yours only has 3 words in the bio, that's a you problem, not a them problem. If you're frustrated by bad, low quality pictures, but all of yours are so filtered that you look like your high school self and not the person you actually are today, you need to take a step back, right? And guys, I need you to understand something. The way men and women experience dating apps is not the same. You're out there trying to get laid. We're just trying not to get killed. It's a completely different reality. Women aren't being cautious and guarded to be difficult. We're doing it for our safety. So if you feel like every girl is walking on eggshells and hesitant to be super flirty right away, it's because we have to be. And look, if you do find a girl who's flirty and forward right off the bat, and then suddenly she's asking you to subscribe to her OnlyFans, don't act shocked, right? The majority of women aren't going to come out the gate with wild, sexy energy because for us, online dating isn't just about finding someone attractive. It's about figuring out if we're even safe with you. So instead of getting mad at people for not meeting your expectations, take a second to consider why they might be acting the way they are. Because if we all stepped back and understood each other's realities a little better, maybe this whole dating thing wouldn't be such a mess. So let's get into these, the most common frustrations on dating apps. And some of these people are really funny and probably borderline offensive. So don't get your feelings hurt, right? I'm probably not the podcaster for you if you get your feelings hurt easily because I do not. And I don't get offended by things. I find them to be more funny. But these are really funny and honest, right? So the first one, of course, is photos. Everybody complains about photos. And I had this girl send me this message that is actually hilarious and it is so spot on. She said they only post 1 or 2 photos, or all their pics are blurry, or from weird angles, so we can't get a good look at your face, or they have sunglasses on or a mask, so we can't really see what you look like, or almost every photo is a group shot, so I have no idea who you are out of the group. Or it's their baby photo, pics of their dog, pics of their food, pics of their kids, pics of their car. I'm not interested in any of these because I won't be having sex with your food, your car, or you as a 5-year-old. Old photos posted. Please don't do this. When I meet you and you're 30 pounds heavier and look like you've slept in your clothes for a week, it's not a happy day. Also, some men wear a hat in every photo, so we can't tell how bald you are. It's fine if you are, but we should get to know what we're working with. And no full body photos, or they're too far away, or you're in like a snowsuit holding up a dead animal you just shot for some reason. So I can't really tell if you're muscular or 200 pounds overweight, which again, I'm fine with, but I want to know what I'm working with. Now, of course, I'm dying when I read this because it's so spot on with men's profile photos, right? It's so bad. And again, I don't know about the girls. So I asked the guys what they're dealing with. And here's some of what I got. One guy said, too many women lie about their appearance. They look nothing like their photo, or if they're overweight, they only take photos of their face. Another guy said, ladies, come on. You really can't pass off those photos from 2005 anymore. The photo quality alone gives it away. Plus, you've probably changed at least a little bit in all those years. It's strange I didn't see those wrinkles or giant ass on your Tinder photo. Now, some people may be offended by his candor, but I respect he's being honest and he isn't wrong. He isn't wrong. That's the key point there. It seems like a lot of people need to do better with pics. If I can't see what someone really looks like, if I can't tell with certainty that they are one of my types, because I do have a few types, I won't match with them. And this is what I want you to be mindful of. If you're looking at a lady's profile and she's only posting headshots, then you already know she probably isn't confident with her body. You already have that information, so don't match with her. If you're looking at a guy's profile and he isn't smiling in any of his photos, then you know he probably isn't confident with his teeth. If this is a thing for you, then don't match with him. But stop lowering your own standards and matching with people who are very clearly showing you all the warning signs, then be mad when the warning signs were accurate. You see what I'm saying? It's your responsibility to filter people out. You can't match with somebody who only showed headshots and didn't show their body and then be upset and feel like you got screwed over when they show up and they're 30 pounds heavier than you thought they were, right? Like, you guys, you have to manage your expectations. People's photos and bios will give you the information. You have to decide if you're going to connect or not connect, right? Next up is ghosting. And I'm a little confused about ghosting, I'll be honest, because I feel like everybody has a different definition for what ghosting actually is. One person wrote to me and said, "Yes, please exchange messages with me for 3 weeks, then vanish from the face of the earth. I seriously had absolutely nothing better to do with my life." Okay, I have to step in here and say, if you're messaging with someone for 3 weeks and it's not progressing, that's bad boundaries on your part. If there isn't forward movement in a situation and you want there to be forward movement, then ask what's up. If that doesn't get things moving, then you need to move on. That's a healthy boundary. I feel like I can tell when a guy is stuck for whatever reason. It doesn't matter to me what the reason is. If he's having some hesitation about taking the next step, then that's all the information I need. Whether the next step is moving from the app to texting or scheduling an in-person meeting or going from texting to a phone call, whatever the next step is, if he is hesitating to take it, I'm pretty quick to move on because you have hesitation for a reason, right? I don't need to know the reason. The hesitation is reason enough. Something is missing or you have something else going on. Whatever it is, hesitation is hesitation. But my question for you is, when is it considered ghosting? Because ghosting to me is like when you've established some sense of knowing each other. You've had a fair amount of conversation, established some comfort with one another. Certainly if you've gone on dates, right? But I don't consider it ghosting when someone just stops messaging me. I'm actually kind of appreciative of that because they just weeded themselves out and it's less work I have to do. It used to kind of freak me out that you can literally message with someone for 2, 3 days, super consistent, and then they still will just disappear. And I would think like, what's the point in spending all that time if you didn't want to meet, right? It was really confusing to me. Now I know it's just normal. That's what almost everyone does 95% of the time. So I just expect it. I don't even get excited anymore. Like if somebody's messaging me in the first couple of days, I don't even get excited anymore because you know there's going to be this time when it's time to take the next step. And that's usually when it all falls apart. But I don't know if that's actual ghosting or if there needs to be more than that for it to be ghosting. One of the biggest differences between meeting someone in real life versus meeting them on a dating app is just how much slower and more complicated the whole process becomes, right? When you meet someone in person, you already have so much information about them without even thinking about it. You see how they carry themselves, their mannerisms, their smile, their voice, their energy. You can tell if they're funny or smart or quirky or awkward all within a few minutes. And most importantly, you already know if you're attracted to them or not. It's instant. But in dating app world, you don't get any of that. All you have is a handful of pictures, sometimes really bad, overly filtered or outdated pictures, and maybe a few sentences if they even bothered to fill out their profile. That means everything takes longer. And instead of natural chemistry guiding things, we're left to overthink and overanalyze and question every little decision, right? And this is where so many connections die before they even have a chance to start. Because instead of things unfolding naturally, online dating is filled with all these extra decision points or exit points. Do I like them enough to match? Do I want to keep this conversation going? Do I want to give them my number? Do I actually want to text back? Do I want to move to a phone call or FaceTime? Do I want to meet in person? And at every single stage, people have the opportunity to just stop. And most of the time they do. And then when you throw in anxiety and nerves and overthinking and all the self-doubt that comes with dating, what if they're weird? What if they don't like me? What if I don't like them? It's no wonder so many conversations just fade to nothing. Dating apps don't just slow things down, they create more opportunities for people to let fear, insecurity, and hesitation get in the way. And that's why so many of us feel like we're stuck in an endless cycle of swiping, chatting, and then nothing. I think you'll agree with me that it is frustrating, but most of us are doing all the same things. I've had plenty of people I just let the conversation die off. And a lot of them I would have been happy to meet in real life. But there has to be some energy they're putting in. And if that stops, I'm not going to keep showing up and doing all the heavy lifting to keep things going. It just shows me that they aren't interested or they're stuck in their head about something and they aren't willing to push through it to keep things going with me. I've also definitely matched with people and then decided I didn't want to message them. Sometimes I just don't feel like it, or I decide to take a break, or I realize I probably shouldn't have matched with them in the first place. None of this makes me a bad person. It just means I'm human. But there are guys out there that could be saying this stuff about me. Why did you match with me if you didn't want to talk to me? Why did you waste my time messaging if you were just going to unmatch me? Well, I wasn't doing any of those things. I didn't set out to waste your time or hurt your feelings. I just made a decision that was best for me in the moment. And I don't owe anyone an explanation. I think it's super important to match energy. If he's texting me, I'll text him. I'll even put in a little more effort. If I feel like his energy is dying down, I'll send an extra text just to see if that energy is still there. But if it's not, I'm not going to stick around and chase someone either, right? Effort is so important in dating app world because it's one of the few things we have to go on. I think this is why pics and profile information are so important. Most people want to see some effort because it shows you care about it. One guy said this to me. He said, Angela, I am a very average looking guy, and I get plenty of responses and unsolicited messages from women on dating apps. He said, I realize now there's a certain art to looking interesting over messages. When women messaged me, it was invariably two things. One, cute picture with a dog, and two, I put a lot of funny stuff they could talk about. I put a lot of work into my profile and I used decent pictures and I injected personality into it, and it made a huge difference. See that effort, right? It just opens up the door to a whole different way of communicating and creating interest. And I get how awkward this is too. When I filled out my first online dating profile last year, I had no idea what to write. It's so freaking awkward. I also want to protect my privacy because I'm a public person. And one thing I like about the apps is they allow me some anonymity. The other person isn't coming to the table after binging my social media and knowing a ton of information about me. On the apps, they have no idea about me and my career. But it's so ridiculously awkward to write about yourself. And if you've been with me for any length of time, you already know what I did to solve the problem. I Googled it, of course, like I do everything. And I found some pretty cute stuff that I used to get me started. And then, like, as I'm going through other people's profiles, when I see something I like or I think is really funny, then I'll use it for my own profile with my own information. But effort goes a long way in this. You can do this for messaging also. If you aren't comfortable with conversations or you don't know how to start a conversation, Google it. There's a ton of stuff out there about dating apps and how to navigate dating apps and what to say. I had no idea how annoyed people got. This is the next one, is the opening message, right? The other biggest complaint. I had no idea how annoyed people got when you send a message that says, hey, how are you? Or how's your day? That's literally what I say every single time, okay? And apparently people get really annoyed with this and think it's low effort. I think it's just a conversation starter. That this is a prime example of where everybody has their own perspective. And if you want to get so caught up in your perspective and not take a minute to see the other person, like give some grace and space, people. Like my opening message does not need to be judged by you. This is just a prime example where like I'm getting judged by other people based on what they think is appropriate or acceptable. And all I'm trying to do is start a conversation. And somebody wrote to me and said, and she said this, it was so funny. She said, it floors me that some people think, hey, how's it going, is a perfectly reasonable introductory message. And I was seeing this opinion a lot. I had no idea I was lacking so terribly. But also, if you're spending more time critiquing what everyone else is doing and judging how they're doing things, you may want to take a step back and look at yourself. Being judgmental only shows your insecurities, right? And people pick up on that in conversations, especially on dating apps. But effort shows you care. And I tend to think if you don't even want to put effort and energy into your profile, then how would you be in a dating situation? I mean, if you're trying to get people to get naked with you, I would think you would want to put a little extra effort into that, right? That if you don't put any effort into it, does that mean you're a bare minimum person? Like you don't want to do anything or plan anything? Are you bare minimum in your whole life? Are you bare minimum in your job with your family? For me, that's not the kind of partner I'm compatible with. So I'll pass on those profiles. Another thing that came up more than anything else was sexual messages. And one person said to me, turning conversations too sexual too fast. Even if I'm looking for a casual relationship, I don't want to get into that in the first message. And I love that this was said too, because I think a lot of women feel this way for sure. That message was from a guy, by the way. But I'll share my experience on this because I'm not a woman that is going into dating looking for a serious relationship. I'm not against a relationship. I'm always open to meet my ride or die, but I'm not walking into every coffee meet and greet thinking this could be the one, right? Our lifestyles may not match up for a lifelong partnership, but if we vibe and have good energy, there are a ton of other options that don't have to end at the altar. But I also will not be treated like an orifice or as if my only value is my vagina, right? I had a guy a while back that at first I was really excited to match with him. He had an exciting job, which made me feel like he could be okay with me having an exciting and public career. He works out all the time, just like me. He's attractive. But literally in the second message, he made a comment about me in stripper heels or something. And I'm like, damn, dude, 2 messages in and you already turned me into a stripper. Good to know where your head's at. For me, it's hard to get too flirty until I've met someone in person. I have no idea if you are even the person in your pics. And I have no idea if you look like your pics. I don't know if you're capable of carrying on a conversation, being kind, respectful, or if you're a serial killer. And just FYI, in case you don't know, this is a staggering and heartbreaking statistic, but one that people need to hear because being a woman in this game is terrifying. 8 out of 10 rapes are committed by someone the victim knows, right? It's not somebody grabbing you off the street. It's by someone that you know. And this makes things extra irritating. I actually had a guy last year that was irritated with me because I wasn't flirty. And I explained to him why. I was like, dude, I don't even know who you are to know if I want to flirt with you. You start asking me for pics and then you think I'm lame because I'm not playing the game with you. And all I'm trying to do is avoid getting assaulted or killed. And he was literally irritated because I wouldn't be flirty with him. And we met for coffee and had this conversation in person. This wasn't a messaging conversation. We had this conversation in person. And he's like, ugh, and rolling his eyes. And I'm like, dude, this is my safety. And I'm sorry that is such an inconvenience for you. I'm sure you can imagine how I handled that poor guy. But even if a woman is open to a hookup, it doesn't mean they don't require general respect and kindness. Sometimes it feels like guys just want you to be an escort. And that's great if that's what you're looking for. You just want someone to show up and service you and go away. I get that. I would love that too. That's brilliant. But if that's what you want, then you have to go get an escort and stop trying to make regular chicks act like escorts. Get your shit together, manage your expectation, right? And some guys are really rude about this stuff. Some guys are super douchey. It's kind of incredible. I'm sure women are too in their own way. I just don't date women, so I don't know that side as well. But at the end of the day, dating, especially online dating, is frustrating for everyone. It's easy to get annoyed when people don't communicate the way we want, when they don't move at our preferred pace, or when they disappear without explanation. But what we tend to forget is that everyone is carrying their own fears and insecurities and past experiences into this process. The guy who isn't as chatty as you'd like might just be bad at texting, not necessarily disinterested. The woman who's hesitant to meet up right away isn't playing games. She might be just making sure she feels safe. The person who unmatched you after a good conversation may have panicked or realized they weren't ready to date after all. It's not personal. It's not about you. So instead of letting dating apps make us bitter and irritated and quick to judge, what if we tried something different? What if we just let people be who they are without taking it so personally? If someone doesn't fill out their profile or doesn't message back or doesn't want to meet up, that's their choice. It's not an attack on you. It's not that you're lacking something. It's just where they're at. And instead of spending our energy being frustrated, we can shift our focus to the people who do show up and who do communicate and who do want the same things we do. Because the truth is, you can't control how anyone else moves through this process, but you can control how much you let it get to you. So give people grace, have patience. Most importantly, keep your own side of the street clean, because dating is hard enough without all the unnecessary resentment. If you keep matching with people who annoy you, it might be time to take a step back and rethink how you're choosing your matches. If their pictures scream insecurity, whether it's over the top gym selfies, heavy filters, or photos that strategically hide certain features, and that's something that bothers you, don't match with them. If an empty profile feels like a red flag to you, swipe left. Or if you're curious, match with them and give them the chance to show you who they really are. But if they don't make an effort, if they aren't messaging, if the conversation is dry, if they're clearly not bringing any energy, then unmatch and move on. There's no need to sit around feeling irritated when the signs really were there from the start, right? If they're not engaging, they either aren't ready, aren't interested, or just aren't putting in effort. And that's not what you're looking for. And let's talk about the numbers game. One of the more eye-opening things I learned while researching this episode is that a lot of men approach dating apps by casting the widest net possible. Their strategy is to match with and message as many women as they can, hoping something sticks. It kind of grosses me out. But it doesn't surprise me because I used to watch guys do this all the time when I was a bartender. You just watch dudes go girl to girl to girl to girl to girl, no real intention, just playing the game until they find someone willing to go home with them. I don't think I have to tell you, women hunt differently. That's why filtering is so important too. Tighten your filters. You may consider paying for the upgraded version of whatever app you're on so you have access to more filters. Like I have my settings set so that only people I like can see me because I don't want to be bombarded with messages and likes because dudes are matching with hundreds of women. It's really overwhelming to me, and I have no desire for dating to feel like a part-time job, right? It's not even that important to me, honestly. So I don't want to have to sift through hundreds of messages and likes. Like I'm just not doing it. So I apply my filters appropriately that makes it manageable for me and makes it fit my life and my lifestyle and the level of importance it is to me. Now, some people love getting hundreds of messages and likes. They want the attention. They want the validation. It's just not my thing. And that's the point. Everyone is using these apps in their own way with their own intentions, and that's not something to be mad at each other about. If someone's approach doesn't align with yours, don't waste time being irritated. Just move on and don't match with them. Now, here's the catch. Filtering properly means you will go through stretches where you don't have a ton of matches. And this is where people struggle because dating apps trigger that dopamine hit. When you get a new match, you're chasing that high, you'll start lowering your standards. And when you lower your standards, you end up with matches that irritate and disappoint you. So at the end of the day, you have to decide, are you in it for the quick dopamine hit or are you in it to actually find someone who fits your life? Either way is fine. Just set your boundaries, be honest about what you're looking for or not looking for, filter appropriately, and let go of anyone who isn't aligned with what you want. And stop being so mad at each other for how frustrating it can be. You have no idea who the person is behind the pictures. You don't know their intentions, what they want, if they're an introvert or an extrovert, if they're shy or outgoing, if they have anxiety. Leave each other alone and stop getting mad at people for being people. I can't believe we're already on the last episode of our dating and relationship series, but I have some new programs and options available that aren't on the web. So if you've been thinking about working with me for a long time and you've been hesitant to make a move, now is a great time to schedule a call with me and learn about some of these new opportunities. It's super easy, addictionunlimited.com/call. I'm super nice and laid back, addictionunlimited.com/call. I will link that in the show notes as well. But let's chat and see if we can work together or see what other options I have for you because I have some pretty cool stuff right now that is not even available publicly yet. So set up a call with me, addictionunlimited.com/call. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I will see you next week.
You've reached the end of another great episode of the Addiction Unlimited podcast. Candid and honest conversation about addiction and recovery. Be sure to visit us at addictionunlimited.com to join the conversation and access show notes and links to everything we talked about. Love this episode? Please take 30 seconds to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes to help us improve and give you the information you want. Thanks for listening. See you next week.